Welcome to the Dispatch. You are listening to a primer on Jammu and Kashmir. In episode 24, we talk about the reforms in the aftermath of 1931 agitation, which eventually led to the formation of First Legislative Assembly.
The agitation of 1931 marked the first decisive break in the relationship between the Dogra state and its subjects. In response to the scale and seriousness of the unrest, Maharaja Hari Singh's government recognized that administrative adjustments alone would not suffice. What followed was the appointment of the Commission of Inquiry, headed by Sir B.J. Glancy, a British officer with experience in constitutional matters. The Glancy Commission became the first formal attempt to study the political, educational, and economic conditions of Jammu and Kashmir, and it laid the foundations for institutional change in the years that followed. The Commission began its work in late 1931 and travelled widely, hearing representations from individuals, community groups, traders, students, clerics, and officials. Petitions arrived from every region: Jammu, Kashmir, Rajouri, Mirpur, Muzaffarabad, Ladakh, and Gilgit. The subjects were varied but consistent in theme: recruitment to state service, educational opportunities, land revenue demands, administrative access, and the need for more transparent procedures. For the first time, grievances that had previously been expressed in narrow forums were articulated before an official body empowered to record and analyze them. A central conclusion of the Commission was the recognition of underrepresentation of various communities, particularly Kashmiri Muslims, in government service and education. The report emphasized structural barriers: poverty, limited access to schooling, lack of preparatory institutions, and the dominance of certain traditional elites in the bureaucracy. It did not attribute these inequalities to deliberate discrimination, but to historical patterns that the state needed to address through systematic reform. The Commission also noted that political consciousness was rising across all communities, not just among Muslims. In Jammu, Dogra and Punjabi Hindu organizations were seeking educational expansion and administrative reform. In Kashmir, Pandits were expressing concern about their professional prospects. Traders from Mirpur and Muzaffarabad raised issues of taxation and infrastructure, and Ladakhi representatives requested better communication links and administrative attention. The Commission treated these demands as symptoms of a society entering a new era, one where subjects expected participation, fairness, and predictable governance. Its most consequential recommendation was the introduction of a legislative assembly with elected members, a proposal that signaled the Dogra state's first step toward representative politics. The Maharaja accepted this recommendation, and in 1934 the Praja Sabha was established. The new assembly had limited powers, chiefly advisory, but it marked a constitutional shift. Elections, however restricted, introduced the principle of public mandate into a state that had until then been governed solely from the throne. The Glancy recommendations also led to the expansion of educational institutions, the introduction of quotas and scholarships for backward communities, and the creation of new recruitment procedures aimed at widening administrative inclusion. While the reforms did not fully bridge existing disparities, they began to soften the rigid boundaries of earlier decades. These changes were met with mixed responses. Many hoped the new institutions would bring stability. Others felt the reforms were too modest for the scale of social change underway. Yet, in the larger sweep of the state's history, the Glancy Commission represented a turning point. The first acknowledgement that Jammu and Kashmir had entered an age when public opinion had to be heard, not only contained. The seeds of organized political life, sown in the petitions of the early 1930s, now had an institutional channel. The Dogra state, while retaining its monarchical character, was beginning to move toward a more participatory structure, a transition that would shape its politics across the next 2 decades.
Thanks for watching this episode of Primer on Jammu and Kashmir. Here is a quick note from the editors of the Dispatch. While dealing with historical events, we are conscious of the fact that history has no single view. In places like Jammu and Kashmir, this can be more complicated. While explaining the events of history through this primer, we are taking the best possible care to be objective and to offer context wherever views differ starkly. We welcome you to write to us and enrich the knowledge base on Jammu and Kashmir.